Last week, we looked at the reality that sin makes us beastly. I received some criticism from my homily last week that the homily was too dark. The person was super gracious and super kind in the conversation, but they said, as we looked at David last week, that at Mass on Sunday, I shouldn't have mentioned, the adultery. I shouldn't have mentioned murder. To mention the horrors of Auschwitz in a homily, it's too dark. Father Mark, it was out of line. Here's the reality. Things can get really bad. Things can get pretty dark, like really dark, like Auschwitz kind of dark. We just heard, or really we acted out, with a narrator and voice and, the crowd. We acted out a man getting nailed to a tree. Like, it doesn't get darker than that. Of we shouting, "Crucify him," and not just anybody, but somebody who was innocent, somebody who was goodness, pure goodness itself. He was God. So, in the second reading, like we forget it. We forget those things, like, but like this week, our school children will act it out. Like there'll be an 8th grade boy standing in the middle of this with a cross. We'll have three preschoolers and kindergartners in the first rows here. He'll stretch out his arms with the preschoolers and kindergartners here. They will even make noise in this, like this, acting out this 8th grade boy getting nailed to a cross. Like we forget it. We forget, but you don't get darker than that. You don't get more beastly than that. Because he was innocent, he was God. And we hear in our second reading, Paul starts with Jesus, who was in the form of God, but he empties himself. And not just empties himself, he becomes human. Not just become human, he goes to death. And not just death, he goes to death by death on a cross. He goes all the way down, allowing death to engulf him. Or stick with the image that we've been looking at the last 5 weeks of Michelangelo's image of the torment of St. Anthony, those demons that are around that depict the spiritual life. God allowed himself to be engulfed by the beasts, to be consumed by evil, so as to defeat it, right? So as he goes all the way down into the ugliness and the beastliness, as bad and as worse as it can get, he goes all the way down to be engulfed by the beasts, to be consumed by evil, so as to then redeem it, to bring it back. That's Easter. That's the resurrection. But before Easter this week, Holy Week, take some time to zoom in at the cross, to contemplate the cross, to remember that mercy, which is extended as an offer that's there for every one of us, to remember that mercy is costly. Mercy has a cost. So today, this week, it's not a time to despair, but it's a time to give thanks to a God that out of his great love and mercy, he goes to the cross to die and to defeat the beasts.